Welcome to NC Angling. I'm your host Donald Dudley, and today we're going to look at what I think is 4 important knots that you should know before you head out to the water. Knots are like vehicles. We all have the ones that we prefer best, but I think if you know these 4 knots that I'm going to show you today, that it'll help you when you go out to fish and help you to catch more fish. This is just a refresher for experienced fishermen and to help some novice fishermen. Again, I'm not an expert, but these are the knots that I use and that have helped me when I've been out on the water. Let's look at the first knot that I think you should know before you head out there. This is one of my go-to knots. It's called the Canoeman Loop Knot, and I think that it helps to add extra motion and helps with your lure presentation. So this is how you would tie the Canoeman Loop Knot. You run your line through the eye of the lure. You're going to make a loop. You're going to make a second loop. Okay, and then you'll take that second loop and you're going to put it through your first loop. And then you're going to take the tag end that's already through your lure and you're going to run that through the second loop that you just put through your first loop. You'll determine the size that you would like the loop. And then you would, of course, moisten the line so it doesn't cause burns to your line as bad. I didn't for this demonstration, but you would do that before you cinch it down. Cinch it down, and that's going to give you a knot that allows your lure to move freely without being hindered by the knot. You would trim this tag end. I like to trim my tag end about as long as the loop is. That way, as it's running through the water, it's basically a weedless knot. And I think this knot definitely helps out with lure motion. And again, it's my go-to knot when I'm tying straight to a lure that just has an eye, no split rings or anything like that. Now the second knot we're going to look at is called the improved clinch knot. This is a knot I use when tying to hooks or swivels or anything with a split ring, anything you don't need that extra motion on. Alright, to tie the improved clinch knot, what you do is you take the line and you run through the eye of the hook or the lure. Give yourself enough room to work with. I like to take my middle finger and hold just above the eye. And then for most lines, I'm going to do six wraps, unless if I'm using mono or fluorocarbon. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Make sure when you make these wraps that they don't stack up on top of each other. And what you'll do is you'll take the tag end and you're going to run it through the loop that you were holding with your middle finger. Alright, and that's going to create this new loop right here. And what you'll do is you'll take that tag end that you just ran through that loop and you'll run it through the back of the new loop that you just created. So you bring it through that. Alright. Now, of course, if you're fishing, what you need to do is lubricate your line, prevent burns. But as you pull down and tighten this down, you'll see it cinch up and give you a nice knot. You would come in, of course, and cut off your tag end there, but you have a nice, strong knot. Now, it doesn't allow the same motion that a loop knot would allow. So I don't use this on jig heads like this, but if you're tying to things like rattle traps that have split rings, then of course this would be a good knot for that scenario. So the third knot we're going to look at is a Uni Knot. I use this knot to tie lures straight to braid. Most of the time when I'm bass fishing, I feel like I can tie straight to braid, not have any problems. Unlike with saltwater, I feel like I'm going to have mono or fluorocarbon leaders. Again, that's just my personal preference. Alright, so let's look at tying braid directly to a hook or a lure. I use a Uni Knot for that with one alteration. You take your braid and you run through the eye of the lure or the hook. The alteration is you're going to take it and you run it through the eye of the hook again. So now you have 2 loops through there. Now you do have to be careful on most hooks that have the connection point back here that can damage your line. You don't want that to get nicked up by that. Alright, so now what you have is you have 2 passes through the eye of the lure and you have your braid running on top of each other like that. And now what you can do is make your loop that you need to create a uni knot. So you see now we have the loop here that we can start wrapping. For braid, I like to wrap about 6 to 9 times. So you take and come in from the back there, and what you'll do is through that loop you're going to run 6 to 9 loops. So there's 2, 3, and you want to make sure that these loops don't cross over top of each other. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Alright, so now you have your loops or your wraps. Again, make sure they don't cross over top of each other. Okay, so you got good wraps there. Make sure everything's good. And then of course, with any fishing knot or any knot that you don't want the line to get weakened, you would lubricate with saliva, dip it in the water, whatnot, so that when you tighten it down it doesn't burn your line. But you'll see now that you have your uni knot, you're able to tighten it down, and then it'll just pull down and cinch tight to your hook. Alright, now you have the 2 loops, 2 wraps through the eye of the hook or through the lure that help prevent slippage, and you have a nice strong connection point knot for braid to a hook or lure. And then of course you would come back in and you would snip off your excess tag end and complete out your knot. And finally we're going to look at a knot that's a way to tie 2 different types of lines together. I use this knot if I'm going to tie like braid to mono or braid the fluorocarbon. Again, most of the time when I'm saltwater fishing or if I'm going to be fishing around structure. And that's going to be a Uni-Uni knot, or what some people call a double uni. Let's look at combining 2 different types of lines. I do that with a Uni-Uni knot, or also called a double uni. For combining like something like mono fluorocarbon with braid. So to do that, what you'll do is you'll take your mono or fluorocarbon, you'll run it one direction. You'll take your braid, you'll run it the other direction, and lay those side by side. And now you're going to be able to do your uni knot. Give yourself plenty to work with. So now you have this braid here. You take that, create your loop of a normal uni knot. Alright, so now we have our loop. You'll come in from the back there, and with braid I like to make 9 loops. So you're going to just make 9 loops through, or wraps through that hole. And as you're doing this, you just want to make sure that your wraps go beside each other and not on top of each other. 7, 8, 9. I think that was 9. I lost count while I was talking, but I think that's 9 wraps. Again, make sure they're beside each other. Alright, then of course with any knot, before you go overly tightening it down, you're going to need to moisten it. So we're not going to tighten that down very far right now. So we have one uni knot there, not tightened down yet. Now you're going to come to your mono or fluorocarbon side. You're going to make your same loop so that you can do your uni knot. Okay, so now you have your loop. Come in from the back there. On the mono or fluorocarbon side, I like to do 5 or 6. There's 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Right, again, not overlapping each other. Ran side by side. Okay, you're going to take that, and again, you're not overly tightening it down yet. Just going to pull it a little bit. Now you have your other mono, or your other uni. You're going to moisten your line, so I have some water there. Moisten that down. So now I've tightened down one uni knot. Come in, moisten your other side. Tighten down that uni knot. Alright, and then before I cinch them together, I like to make sure the entire line is moistened. So now you have a moistened line there, and you have a uni knot here and a uni knot there. You hold your mono fluorocarbon side, hold your braid side, leave your tag ends alone, and now as you pull down, your two uni knots will pull and touch each other. Alright, so now they connected. You can pull, snug it down real good, and as you can see, you got a nice strong connection point with a uni knot tied up against another uni knot. Alright, and you will come back in and you'll trim off your tag ends as close as you can to your knot on both the braid and your mono or fluorocarbon. And you'll have a nice inline connection point for connecting mono or fluorocarbon to braid. If you're not worried about the knot going through the eyes of your fishing rod, this is a good knot. It's a little slightly bulky if you're looking for that without any snags. If you're looking for something like that, you tie the FG knot, but in most scenarios I'm not worried about that. So this is my go-to knot for combining two different types of line. Well, that does it for this edition of NC Angling. I hope these knots help you as you head out to the water and help you with your pursuit of catching more fish. Thanks for joining us today, and I hope to see you next time. And until then, don't forget to keep those lines tight. And don't forget to subscribe and leave your comments down below.